a decade. We can use the D word officially now. I've been holding off using that D word. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Coaches on Couches.
Bing! Slouchy.
I'm pretty non-slouch right now.
I'm about as slouch as it gets right here.
That's true.
If fall asleep halfway through.
If Leslie falls asleep, I'll smack him.
It's due to the slouching.
So today, it's kind of a little bit of a special episode today. Mm-hmm. Today marks 10 years.
Yep.
10 years. I've been...
Is today the exact 10 years?
What is the date?
I don't know. 9th, I think?
Yeah.
It's very close.
Yeah, so...
This month, for sure.
Yeah, early May, we decided to go out on our own and start this company.
Way back in 2009.
2009. A decade. We can use the D word officially now. I've been holding off using that D word. So today we're going to be talking about a lot of the major lessons that we've learned over the last 10 years that you can only pick up by experience.
Yep.
Not so much, I wouldn't say based in research, but based
it's kind of that combo, right?
Yeah, it's like a long-term observational research, of working with hundreds of athletes over the last 10 years. So
of all ages, disciplines. You name it. We've probably seen it over the course of this past 10 years.
Yeah. So they're somewhat a little bit random, but all good little nuggets here. Mm-hmm. So I am Coach Dale Sanford.
And I am Coach Bryant Funston. We are the co-founders of BPC Performance Coaching, where we specialize in helping time-crunched athletes optimize their busy schedules so they can maximize their athletic performance. Every BPC coach is trained in our 5 pillars coaching system that has been developed over the last, officially now, decade.
10 years.
There we go, through our work with athletes of all ages and ability levels, from fresh off the couch to world championship competitors. You can find out more about BPC by going to buildpeakcompete.com, checking Facebook and YouTube at buildpeakcompete, or all up on that Instagram at BPC Performance.
Nailed it.
Bam. I can put my phone away now. Now that I've read that, I can put my phone away.
All right, quick order of business.
Yes, this is a big one.
This is a big one. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't heard, if you've been living under a rock, Memphis is in the running for a new Ironman race in 2020. We want to make...
One of 4 cities.
We want to make damn certain that we are as close to the top and get this thing here.
The only step on the podium that's acceptable is the top step.
The top step.
Yeah.
So on Monday, May 13th, 2019, they will be here at Shelby Farms Visitor Center for a site visit. That may give you a hint on where they're kind of thinking part of the course might go. So they'll be here, they're saying 4 p.m. would be the absolute earliest. But if you are local triathlete, doesn't matter if you're a triathlete, runner, cyclist, they actually are adding in relay divisions now to Ironman races. So cyclist, runner, triathlete, get down to Shelby Farms on Monday evening and let's show...
Get your slapper sticks out.
Yeah. It's the Lycra Swarm.
Yeah, Lycra.
Let's do it. Get down there and let's show them a warm welcome and show them how big the Mid-South endurance community really is.
Yeah, it'd be huge for Memphis to have that. What is it? They estimate 10,000 people.
2,500 to 3,000 athletes and 10,000 extra people. I think the average economic impact is somewhere between 10 and 13 million, as high as like 20-something million. So, yeah, it's massive. It could be huge for Memphis. So
yeah, for sure.
Get down there.
Cool.
All right. Now, on to more business. Shout-outs.
So, big race weekend over in Nashville. Max Gander Criterium, Cedar Hill Criterium. Both have sketchy corners in them.
A little sketch.
Sally Landham gets the Bad Mamma Jamma of the Year award. She ended up going down in the first corner on the second day. Required 10 stitches in her arm.
Yeah.
And we didn't know that till after, obviously. But I went over there, like, kind of fixed her bike back into shape. She's like, if you think I can ride this, I'm getting back in there. I was like, what? Are you serious? So she's got blood going everywhere, gets back in the race, actually nabs a preem. And I was like, wow.
Adrenaline.
Tough as nails.
Adrenaline, baby.
Tough as nails. Same race, Leigh gets top step of the Masters Women's Race.
There you go.
But there was great results all around. And then my other shout out, Jeremy Matthews and Scott Stader. Stader,
the tater.
Stader. He
run 365. He nabbed his 50th
state
marathon.
50 marathons,
in
50 different states.
Yep.
Huge accomplishment. I think Jeremy said like there's only been like 1,500 people or so that have done that.
Yeah.
So really,
is that the Flying Pig?
The Flying Pig.
Flying Pig marathon.
Great name for a marathon.
Yeah. So 50 states, 50 marathons. Awesome job, Scott and Jeremy. I got one, Liz Hall, who we've been talking about quite a bit, and we'll have her on the couch one day to talk about her progression as a runner, but still hitting PRs. So we hit a 10K PR this weekend at the Coke 10K in Corinth, Mississippi. It's kind of it's not really a small race, but
Coca-Cola?
Coca-Cola, yeah, sorry. The Coca-Cola 10K. Yeah, in Corinth, not in Colombia.
Not in Colombia.
So,
go.
All right, so we got a quick good luck to all of the athletes going down to Florida this weekend for Gulf Coast 70.3. We've got a couple going down. So good luck, everybody. Race smart, follow the plan, trust your training.
Excellent.
Let's jump to it. All right, so we'll kind of bounce back and forth here.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to lay down these nuggets. Try not to elaborate too much, but I'll let you lead off there, Funston.
Yeah, I mean, like Dale mentioned in the open, kind of the big goal here is to kind of give some of the wisdom that we've gained, and then hopefully you can apply this to your own. Yeah.
Strong word there.
Yeah, it was. Hopefully you can apply this to your own stuff. You know, it's so easy to get caught on like the micro level, that kind of taking a step back and looking at kind of these overall themes and things that we've learned, hopefully will be helpful for folks. And I'd say one of the biggest things that I have taken away from the past 10 years is that the perfect training plan is the one that works with the specific person and their lifestyle.
Absolutely.
One that keeps them motivated, keeps them training, keeps them consistent, and doesn't pull or have a negative impact on the other areas of their life, but instead helps lift those up. So, you know, you can't have like, here's a pre-built plan for any one person if the goal is to really maximize that person's performance and build that around their life schedule. And that's why, you know, customized coaching and taking all those areas into account is so big. The perfect plan is the one you can complete. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. The one that you see gains with, and you can actually complete. Yeah, for sure. We have to keep this in the lens of an amateur athlete that has a family, or may not have a family, but has other social obligations, has a job, you know, working, you know, that's the kind of lens we're looking through. Not the pro athlete who has all the time in the world. Exactly. 28 hours to train every week, and sleep and eat and all that kind of stuff. So you know, these are just things that we picked up. You know, you cannot. Yeah, I mean, initially I thought it was like, here is what I feel is the work you have to get done. But really, if a person can't accomplish that, how do you adjust it? How do you adapt it? I think a lot of new coaches fall into that because they've only known maybe pre-built plans or something like that, and so or what's worked for them. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's another big thing. But that's a good one. Good one. My first one would be almost one of the most important ones that it took a while to kind of like settle in was, you know, you only see this when you've been coaching somebody for like several years. So we got some people that we've 7 years or 7 years or more that we've been coaching straight on. Yeah. But you know, you don't have to be married to a sport, a discipline within that sport, a distance within that sport. You can go and come back
the sports will be there for you. They're going to be there whenever. But if that specific sport, like triathlon, a lot of times when you have a life change happen, a job, a family, something like that, sport may not fit your schedule anymore.
Mm-hmm.
With triathlon, you're doing, 9 to 11 to 12 sessions a week or whatever, and that may not work for you. And it's okay to set that aside and go to a single sport for a while, or try something new just because you want to. The idea here as an amateur athlete is to just keep moving forward and keep improving yourself in something. You don't have to be stuck in one sport, one distance, one discipline.
Exactly. And it kind of goes back to that first one, right? If 9, 10, 12 training sessions per week is not helping elevate other areas of your life, and instead it's becoming a big stress creator,
Right.
then yeah, take that step back. Go to a single sport.
One of the major things that I've heard over the years that, and this, I didn't even write this down, is when, for somebody who is a competitive-minded person, when you put together a plan of what they've said they can complete, but then all of a sudden life will not let them complete that, the amount of stress that program puts on their life is more than the workouts themselves. Like, they just see it, they can't do it. It stresses them out to the max to not be able to do it. So like, you have to absolutely be honest with your available training time.
Oh, for sure.
This is another point that I put on. You have to be honest with your available training time so that you don't set yourself up for disappointment when you can't get all that training in.
Yeah. And that is definitely something we've learned over the years. It's like telling a person, we want to know, like, what is the absolute for sure you can get in. Not like, if all things go well and you've pre-planned everything and everything's perfect and it's a good day and you're on top of your work, maybe you can get 90 minutes then. But if things are going wrong and stuff pops up, what's the absolute minimum you can get? And if we know that's for sure, we can much better develop a plan for you. And then if you can get more, great. But I think, our first year or two was always like, all right, you need to do 90 minutes. 90 minutes is on there. You said you could do 90 minutes. Well, can you get maybe 2 hours? Is there a way you could get 2 hours? Whereas now it's much more dialing it into a person's schedule. Yeah.
And that changes. It may not be the same in January as it is in March. Like, the thing that we see a lot is, one, everyone has a busy season at work. And once that busy season rolls around, their available training time may drop. You just got to adjust for it. The other thing is, once school gets out, and your kids are at home all the time, it doesn't matter if you have if you're working all the time or you're staying at home, you're busier because your kids are always around. So, like, those are the times of years that you have to think about, is my training time going to be less than it is while they're in school?
And those first 2 weeks really are always the prime adjustment time.
Right.
The first 2 weeks of that transition is always getting back into a new routine, new rhythm. Cool.
What else
I'm
you got?
Next. This kind of ties into what we've been saying, but life stress must be accounted for.
Oh, yeah.
We use Training Peaks. Training Peaks is great at tracking training stress, but the one massive variable that does not show up under your weekly stress load is your life stress.
Yep.
And if you're not sleeping, if you're not eating well, if you're stressed out at work, if you're working long hours, if you spend a lot of time on your feet each day, if you're someone with a job that has you active and outdoors, all of that is stress that does not show up on Training Peaks. And as a coach, if all I'm doing is basing your stress off of what I'm seeing on Training Peaks, then that is not it's doing you a disservice, essentially.
Sure.
That's not the load that your body is under, and we need to have balance that out. We need to know, a coach needs to know what their athlete's stress levels are in order to make sure you're adjusting the training stress accordingly. Like, if I know someone's got a lot of stress happening in life and I'm expecting them to try to get a big training stress that same week, it's too much. So I need to scale down their training If this is something where, the life stuff is taking a big priority, we got to scale it back. And that goes back to, the first point. The perfect plan is the one that works around and helps elevate the person's life schedule or life rather than, detract from it.
And that's where the communication between the coach and the athlete has to be there. Whereas the athlete has to say, be perfectly honest, like, work has been killing me this week, or I had somebody in my family pass away, or something like that, to where, the coach can then know, okay, this person is, one, probably not going to be able to get everything in, and two, this training needs to be converted into a stress reliever. Versus a stress, a stress on the body.
Yeah.
I mean, but you can't get that. You can't make those changes for them unless the communication is there.
Exactly. And if you're someone who, does your own self-coaching, it's really easy to fall victim to that as well. So be aware, you got to scale down your training stress if life stress is super high.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to put yourself in a big hole, and you're going to look at, well, I only did 6 hours last week. I don't know why I'm so beat down and worn down. Well, it's the life stuff. You got to account for it.
Good.
You're up.
So we'll blow through this one real quick. Consistency trumps everything. Staying on the field of play day after day, week after week. Obviously taking rest when needed, but just continuing to do a consistent regimen is going to benefit you more in the long run than any single workout, any single week of training, any single event. If you just stay on the field of play, something is always better than nothing, and you may make slower improvements, but you're still going to be improving.
Oh, for sure. It's like I think we were joking about it last week, in the finance world, that compounding interest, where you do a little bit over a long period of time and it all builds on itself and multiplies and grows and expands. It's very similar with training, with nutrition. So many people get on a training plan or, dial in their diet, and they're super, super focused with it. They do everything perfect for 2 weeks, and they're not seeing the results. But this stuff takes time, and that can be a very frustrating part of this, but it goes back to what Dale just said, being consistent and getting those little things in, not skipping those workouts, not missing those workouts, even if it's not as much as you would like or think you should be doing. It's going to pay off down the road, and it may be, you got to play the long game with this. It may be 2 years from now or 3 years from now, but you play the long game, do the little things, and it's going to add up for you.
I use the term compounding fitness all the time, and it shows up the most in like there's that guy in or gal in your community of endurance athletes that is just fast, and like they don't look like they, you don't know that they train a whole lot or whatever, but they're just fast because they've been training for 10, 20 years, and they just have this banked fitness that they can pull from at any moment. So it goes a long way. Play the long game.
Yep, for sure. My next one is you can do everything right and still not have a great result, which can be super, super frustrating. But sometimes you just have a bad day, and true success, I feel like, comes from, it's great if everything comes together, the training was there, you're perfectly healthy, everything goes to plan on race day, and you have a great result. That's perfect. But I always like my athletes to judge their performance based on how much they got out of their body and whether or not they gave their best on that day.
Absolutely.
Because that's all you can really do, right? You show up with the fitness you have, and all you can really do on race day is give your best. And if that's something you've done, that's something to be proud of. And sometimes it means making an on-the-fly adjustment when you're out there. You realize it's a bad day, and it's like, okay, here's our plan B. Here's what I'm going to do to make this day a success. But know that this sport and is not always about being on a high. There's highs and lows. There's highs and lows in races.
Yep.
And, knowing that, doing everything right and still having a bad day happens sometimes. And so just stay positive about it.
It's the uncontrollable, the 3 C's, the competition, the course, and the conditions.
Exactly. Yep.
You can't, those are things you can't control. And if one of those 3 things makes you have a lesser performance than you were hoping for, there's no reason to feel bad about it. It's out of your control. If you gave your best, thumbs up, 2 thumbs up. Especially from us, you'll get plenty of high fives.
2 high fives, 4 high fives, 6 high fives.
Yeah. The next one we'll kind of go through this because have already 2 podcasts on it, which electrolyte replacement is huge.
Yep. Massive.
So if you want more on that, you can go back a couple episodes on sweat sodium testing, and then we had one, actually the first episode, on how to avoid the old heat beat down. It's been massive though, like that, as far as a game-changing, performance-changing, science-based thing, like it's huge. It plays such a big role in your performance. So don't underestimate it.
Yeah, and I think this kind of ties into one of the things I was had down is there's so much more to coaching. Pain train. There's so much. There's so much more to coaching than just the training program.
That was a good one.
Woo! I think that might be the best train we've had.
Yeah.
But there's more to coaching than just the training program. When I first began coaching, I was like, coaching is about writing the training plan that gets them to race day in the best fitness they have. But there's so much more to it than that. There's technique, there's efficiency, there's race strategy, there's nutrition, all the 5 pillar stuff we talk about. And having that communication with your athlete and making sure they're improving in all areas is something that drives performance, not necessarily just focusing on what is the training. And even the recovery. I mean, recovery is super huge.
It's the training plan itself is just a portion. And there's so many other areas that you can make improvements in. Even if you did the same exact, no plan at all, just doing the same exact thing week after week, and we touched on a lot of the other areas, you could still make improvements in those alone. So don't think that your plan is the only thing that's going to make you a better athlete.
Yep. And that kind of ties into that electrolyte thing you were just talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my big things is, since a lot of our athletes are, let's say 40 plus, 45 plus, very determined, successful people in their own right. But the lesson here is it's never too late to start. Getting into endurance sports, or Don Campbell, one of our athletes, is a great example. When he started riding a bike at,
it was later 50s,
55 or something, and now it's a huge part of his life. And
and he's lifting more weight now than he did at any other point in time in his life.
Don loves getting under a bar. Other example that I like to use is John Rollins. This was early on when we were doing a lot of running mechanics work. John Rollins was training for the Senior Olympics. He was 74 years old and came to us. I mean, I guess I was 25, 26 at the time. Came to us to teach him how to sprint, how to run, but
he was doing the 200, right?
He was doing the 100. He was doing the 100, the 800, and the 5K.
That's right.
So he wanted to learn how to kick better and to sprint, and so he had never really learned. He hadn't gotten into running kind of later in life, but he wanted to learn how to do those skills better. And you would not necessarily think that somebody at 74 years old would want to learn how to sprint. but it's never too late. You can
exactly.
You can learn skills, you can gain fitness, you can change your entire health, wellness, and athletic performance at any age.
Yep.
I mean, it's just a starting
The worst thing you can do is say I'm too old, or say, the time's not right, maybe next year.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to get into shape first before I start getting serious about something.
Yeah.
Like, everyone starts somewhere, and we've worked with people who are, brand new beginners. That's a great time to work with someone because they haven't developed a lot of bad habits.
Yep.
And you can safely take them through those initial steps, making sure they're not overdoing it.
Yep.
And put them on a plan that's going to allow them to grow and develop and be patient with that development.
Absolutely.
All right. I'm going with endurance athletes still hate strength, stretching, and recovery.
Is that a lesson learned over time?
Lesson learned. It's just a confirmation, actually.
Oh,
This is
okay.
just a confirmation over the past 10 years.
Yeah.
And
It's been brutally confirmed.
Oh, yeah. I think one of the big things is, it's tough to go back and look at the injuries that didn't happen
Right.
from doing that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The preventative work, you don't necessarily see it as an immediate benefit anywhere.
Yep.
When you see say someone on the bikes their power numbers are increasing. In an endurance person's mindset, it's because of the structured intervals they're doing, the training on the bike. It's not the auxiliary stuff. But we don't know how many times we don't get injured because we're doing the stretching. We're doing the foam rolling. We're taking our rest days. We're doing our strength work. All those things have a huge impact on a person's overall performance and just general well-being. But it's so hard to attribute your performance to that. And a lot of people, I think, neglect that as a result. But it's one that we're going to keep trying to beat into people's minds.
Just keep beating the dead horse. We're not going to stop, so might as well get on it.
Because it's so good for you.
Yeah. All right. This is a little bit specific, but kind of what I've realized over the last several years is that most, for amateur triathletes, the ones with jobs and families and stuff like that, you're talking most can only average between 10 and 13 hours of training without having the training take away from something else. So generally speaking, when you're doing, that still take 10 to 13 hours, a lot of times can fall into that half iron distance training plan with an occasional higher week during the biggest volume. But it just kind of when you get into that iron distance training and you have a really big amount of time or a big cycle that's above 13 hours, that's where, sleep may take a back seat, or some social obligations, social things take a back seat. And that's where things get imbalanced in your life. And then somehow they're going to have to rebalance at some point. So that's kind of where a lot of times that Ironman hangover comes in, where you've been imbalanced for so long, you love it, you enjoy it, but you've been imbalanced for so long, something has to rebalance, and then you go like this.
Yeah, the scales tip.
The training gets dropped out a ton, and then so just keep in mind, if you're a competitive person and you're in that 10 to 13 hours range, trying to go too much above that, generally speaking, is going to tip the scales a little bit. And eventually it's going to have to rebalance.
And if you're someone with a family, with kids, communication there is huge. When the bigger volume's coming.
Oh, yeah.
Talk that out in advance. Make sure your significant other knows that it's coming. Yeah. Even map it around, at what time in our schedule is that going to be best? Do we need to delay it a week? But making sure the communication's there with your spouse is huge, so they're not wondering when it's all going to end and why you're now
I've seen it.
Burning it through,
I've seen it.
18 hours a day or whatever, and feeling like they are being neglected.
Yeah. Anytime I do a long course or working with a long course athlete, like there's always the goal race, right? So I always go backwards and plan, and I'll put in where where these biggest volume weeks are going to be ahead of time, and about roughly what the weekend's going to look like. Things will change along the way, but this is where if everything goes to plan, this is where they'll be. This is the distances and time and stuff like that, so that people can like plan ahead. And if they need to plan with their family or take off work or whatever, sometimes that happens.
Pair it with a vacation.
So that they can plan ahead, because it takes some of the like life load off when you can plan ahead for those massive weekends. So,
all right, next one I'm going to do kind of ties into that, but more so like communication and paying attention to the motivation of your athlete.
Oh yeah.
So one of the biggest driving things, because every athlete handles a training load differently. Every athlete has different life stress. And one of the things that I've learned these past 10 years is you got to have the communication going. But you really need to be paying attention to the motivation of the athlete. And there's going to be, ups and downs as far as that is concerned, but that's one of the first things I look for when it comes to, is an athlete doing too much? Are they being stretched too thin? Is their motivation, as soon as that motivation really starts dipping in a hobby or sport that they really enjoy, when they get to the point where they're like, I don't want to ride my bike, like this is feeling like a job.
Yeah.
Something's causing that, and figuring out what that is and adjusting a program to maybe back things off, give them less structure, keep the motivation up, is something that keeps an athlete doing it for a long period of time and enjoying the sport versus someone who gets to their goal event and says, whew, I'm glad that's over and I'm done.
Balancing is a good point. Like balancing, one thing that kind of came on over the years was balancing more of the structured stuff with the fun stuff.
For sure.
Not necessarily even unstructured versus structured, but like balancing in group runs and group rides and stuff like that that's more social. That's really the reason why most people get into these sports anyways. You can't take that away from them, and expect them to just continue to train. So that was kind of one thing that over the years that we got really good about, balancing in the weekly group rides and and all that stuff. Because before it was like they were doing them anyways, and then it's just unaccounted training load that was blowing out a week of a program, and then you have to kind of figure out, work around that extra training load. So working that stuff in has been a big lesson over the last few years.
And kind of going along with this, just kind of as a practical thing here, I've found most people, when you start getting super specific with the training relative to the sport, 6 weeks has been about kind of the tops, maybe 8 weeks, where people are able to handle that very structured, where every workout's kind of dialed in specifically towards it. Maybe you're foregoing the the group ride, the fun stuff, in order to really get that last level of performance. But like 6 weeks is about the most that mentally I've found my athletes can handle.
Yeah, like 8 max. A couple of week long or month cycles. On the same topic, I would say that people can train consistently without having like big goals, like a big race or something like that, as long as like the little ones that they set mean enough to them. So like, again, we'll go back to Don. Don's a big example here, because Don doesn't really have goal races or anything like that. He's training to, we'll say, age gracefully and keep up with his grandkids. And those things mean more to him. And those are the things that get him out of bed to do the morning training sessions and everything. So you don't have to be doing an Ironman or a Century or anything like that. You don't have to do a sprint race. But as long as the goals, the things that you have, the motivators, mean enough to you, you will train consistently. But you have to keep those always at the forefront, or the motivation just goes.
Yep. Yeah. There's no reason to get up. Like, why are you going to get out of bed and do it if there's no reason for you to?
One more.
What do you got?
This is just a thing that kind of we've picked up on over the years with cyclists and triathletes. I would say most cyclists and triathletes spend way too much time not pedaling.
It's those group rides.
Yeah. So, you're in your race, especially triathlon, it is nonstop. The bike leg is nonstop. It's A to B. So like spending upwards of 30% of your long ride, even if you're doing a 3 to 5 hour ride, spend 30% of that, over an hour of that time, not pedaling, is not getting specific enough to your goal event.
And if you're time crunched, that's wasted time.
It is. So, how can you make sure that you're pedaling enough? Like when you're going downhill, don't coast. Go to a bigger gear and keep pressure on the pedals. I would say if you're in a group ride, do more pulling. Get on the front, do more work. Or if you're maybe not as strong as everybody, you can get just far enough off the back that you have to work a little bit, but you have to keep pedaling. So if the group slows, you have time to brake and everything, but you kind of have to keep working as long as the group is keep working. But people within that group some are coasting, some are, as the rotation happens or anything like that. But you off the back, since you're kind of out of the draft, have to keep pedaling and keep working. So
for sure.
Trying to get that time spent not pedaling down below 20%, 15%, is like key for building specific fatigue resistance. So that's just a goal. Like early on, didn't pay any attention to it. People go out for 5 hour rides, spend 2.5 hours not pedaling. And then,
good work on that 5 hour ride.
And then they underperform on race day. So that's one thing to watch.
All right. My very last one is like over the past 10 years, we've talked about a lot of the stuff that we've learned, but I think one of the exciting things about being a coach is that it seems like every day, every week, there's still more stuff that we're learning and more stuff to be learned. And with increasing technology, there's more and more data that we can analyze. And so it's an exciting field for us to be in, and I'm thankful for all the awesome athletes that we've gotten to work with over the years. And I'm excited about all the athletes in the future that we're gonna be working with.
Absolutely, we're not going anywhere.
Hope not.
Not going anywhere. Keep learning as an athlete, and we'll keep learning as coaches.
Yep.
And we're here to help.
Cool.
All right. Well, that's it. We appreciate you guys hanging out, watching, listening. And we'll catch you next time. Hopefully, if you're a local, we'll see you on Monday. And we can make sure this Ironman Memphis happens in 2020. All right, folks. We'll catch you next time.
Peace.
Adios.